Is it possible the planet we recognize is already becoming outdated? New coastlines are being carved directly into open water.
The crest of it's historic.
Cities are now stitched together across seas, while tunnels through solid rock turn ancient barriers into mere minutes of travel. Colossal walls force rivers to behave, and vast fields harvest sunlight like a mined resource. In at least one case, shifting this much mass even nudges the rotation of the Earth itself, just slightly. Natural borders no longer define the limit of what can be built. Welcome to the age of the giants. Decades ago, this specific stretch of the Persian Gulf was nothing but empty turquoise water. Now, a branching constellation of sand and stone is visible even from orbit. The sheer volume of material required to create this shape is difficult to grasp. If we took the sand used here and built a wall 2 meters wide and 2 meters high, it would wrap around the entire circumference of the Earth 3 times over. What is truly startling is that the foundation contains no steel and no concrete. Engineers relied entirely on the raw weight of over 94 million cubic meters of sand, locked into place by 7 million tons of rock blasted from the nearby mountains. To ensure the ground wouldn't liquefy under the weight of skyscrapers, they used a technique called vibrocompaction. Massive vibrating probes were plunged into the sand, settling the grains into a solid mass capable of supporting an entire city. Every stone in the 11-mile breakwater was positioned with satellite precision to shield the interior from the power of the tide. Currents are managed through narrow gaps in the outer crescent, allowing the lagoon to breathe while the islands remain anchored against the deep. "100 meters beneath the quiet villages and vineyards on the Swiss-French border, a giant circular machine is attempting to rewrite our understanding of the universe. This is CERN on the Swiss-French border. Beneath this campus runs the Large Hadron Collider, a 17-mile ring of superconducting magnets designed to accelerate particles to nearly the speed of light. To function, the collider's interior must be kept at 1.9 Kelvin, colder than deep space and arguably the coldest place in the galaxy. Here, proton beams thinner than a human hair are smashed together to recreate the conditions of the Big Bang. The precision is so extreme that the Moon's gravity and the water levels of Lake Geneva cause the tunnel to warp slightly, requiring constant, automated micro-adjustments. It is a cathedral of high-tech science, where time and space are dissected within a supercooled steel vacuum. Most of the world looks at this silver spire and sees only height. But the true victory was not against gravity. It was a battle against the physics of heat. Dubai's sun can reach temperatures that would harden concrete before it even leaves the pipe. To build this high, engineers had to treat the building material like a delicate chemical soup. They pumped over 430,000 cubic yards of a specialized mix through a single pipeline, pushing it over 1,900 feet straight up into the air. To prevent early setting, pouring happened at night, often chilled with massive amounts of ice. Near the summit, a high-tech dampening system and 800 tons of reinforced steel manage the wind, keeping the spire imperceptibly stable in a restless atmosphere. While cities rise on the ground, another has been orbiting 400 kilometers above us for over 2 decades. This is a laboratory that travels at 27,000 kilometers per hour, crossing entire continents in a matter of minutes. Maintaining this foothold in the vacuum comes with a staggering price tag, costing between $3 and $4 billion every single year. Inside, life is measured by the rhythm of the sun, though not in the way we experience it on Earth. Because of the station's extreme velocity, the crew witnesses 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets every 24 hours. The structure is a massive assembly of pressurized modules and solar arrays that stretch wider than a football field. These metallic wings capture the raw energy of the sun to power life support systems that must recycle every drop of moisture, including the crew's own breath. It remains a fragile ecosystem held together by international treaties and the constant delivery of supplies from the world below. The geography of the Netherlands is a quiet, centuries-long defiance of the ocean. Much of the nation sits below sea level, and the churning waters of the North Sea are a constant, lurking threat. The Delta Works is the response to that danger, a massive network of dams and storm surge barriers that function as a national shield. Unlike the golden sands of the desert, the landscape here is industrial, grey and cold. The centerpiece is the Oosterschelde barrier, featuring 65 enormous concrete piers that can close their steel gates when a storm approaches. The volume of steel used in these barriers alone is enough to build dozens of Eiffel Towers. These gates are only lowered when the sea level rises to dangerous heights, allowing the natural tide to flow through during calm weather. This ensures the local environment is preserved, while an entire civilization thrives on land that the ocean would otherwise reclaim. In the heart of Yangtze, 3 glass elevators cling to the face of a sheer sandstone cliff. Piercing these ancient stone pillars was once dismissed as a gamble against the laws of structural stability. Sandstone is notoriously fragile, prone to fracturing and collapsing under the vibrations of heavy industrial machinery. Engineers had to anchor the steel structure nearly 1,100 feet straight up into a mountain face that was never meant to hold such weight. Each elevator car can carry nearly 5,000 pounds of passengers, rising to the summit in less than 2 minutes. While the transparent cabins provide a vertical panorama of the stone forest, the true feat is hidden within the rock itself. Tens of thousands of specialized bolts were driven deep into the cliffside to prevent the mountain from shedding its new mechanical skin. It remains a staggering display of nerve, where a thin layer of glass is all that separates modern technology from a 300-million-year-old precipice. Emerging from the humid skyline of Singapore is a canopy of 18 mechanical giants. These super trees, some reaching heights of 160 feet, are a living, breathing hybrid of botany and urban engineering. The concrete cores are wrapped in steel frames that support over 200,000 species of plants, brought in from every corner of the globe. Eleven of these structures are fitted with solar cells that harvest sunlight to power the lighting for the entire park. Others act as exhaust flues for the massive conservatories nearby, mimicking the natural transpiration of real trees to regulate temperature in the tropical heat. Below the surface, a sophisticated water system collects and filters rainwater, redistributing it through the gardens to irrigation points across the bay. Instead of clearing nature to build a city, the infrastructure itself was built to function as an ecosystem. The two giant glass domes nearby, the flower dome and the cloud forest, use high-tech chilling systems to maintain Mediterranean and highland climates in the middle of a tropical metropolis. Every element of the park is part of a closed-loop biological circuit where steel and chlorophyll work in total synchronization. Rising from the dark volcanic rock of the Black Canyon is a relic of human grit born from the Great Depression. Hoover Dam was a project of such scale that it required rethinking the very nature of construction materials. The volume of concrete used here is so massive that if the dam had been poured as a single, continuous block, the heat generated by the chemical reactions would have kept it liquid for over 100 years. To prevent the structure from cracking apart from the inside out, engineers built it as a series of interlocking vertical columns. They ran over 500 miles of steel pipes through the wet concrete, circulating ice-cold water from a dedicated refrigeration plant to draw the heat away. Even now, nearly a century after the last bucket was poured, the concrete continues its slow process of hydration, microscopic chemical changes that continue to harden the mass. The dam acts as a geological plug, holding back the immense weight of Lake Mead and redirecting the Colorado River through turbines that power millions of homes across 3 states. It stands as a heavy, silent witness to a time when raw human labor was the only force capable of taming the American West. High above the Mlinsky Stream Valley, a single steel line cuts through the mountain air. This is the longest pedestrian suspension bridge on the planet, stretching over 720 meters between 2 mountain ridges. There is no solid ground here, only a narrow metal walkway and the constant whistling of the wind. The structure relies on pure tension and 6 main suspension cables to hover 95 meters above the forest floor. When the mountain fog rolls in, the ridges disappear, leaving travelers suspended in a white void. The bridge is designed to sway with the wind, a deliberate flexibility that serves as a constant reminder of the 1,000 tons of tension holding the walkway aloft. The Yangtze River was once a force that defied any attempt at human control. Today, it is held captive by the largest hydroelectric project ever conceived. Three Gorges Dam is a concrete dragon stretching over 1.25 miles across the valley, rising 600 feet from the riverbed. While its 22,500 megawatts of power generation is a record, its impact on the planet's physics is what truly separates it from every other structure. By holding back nearly 40 billion cubic meters of water, the dam shifted a massive amount of weight further away from the axis of the Earth. This change in the moment of inertia caused the rotation of the entire planet to slow down by 0.06 microseconds. The reservoir created by the dam stretches over 370 miles upstream, drowning entire canyons to create a stable, navigable waterway. The pressure exerted on the Earth's crust by this artificial sea is so immense that scientists must constantly monitor the region for induced seismic activity. This dam serves as an artificial horizon, a permanent alteration of the geography that proves humanity can now compete with the tectonic forces of the planet. From the clouds, a massive copper-colored starfish seems to have settled on the plains south of Beijing. This is the world's largest single-building terminal, a futuristic gateway designed to process 72 million passengers every year. Traditional airports often feel like endless labyrinths of corridors. However, Daxing uses a radial geometry that draws everything toward a central heart. Natural light floods through a vast, flowing roof supported by C-shaped columns that curve like organic bone, eliminating the need for thousands of fluorescent bulbs. Because of this starfish layout, the distance from the security checkpoint to the furthest boarding gate is remarkably short. A traveler can reach any gate in 8 minutes or less, a feat achieved by rethinking the entire flow of human movement. There is a place where the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates continue their violent, slow-motion collision. Running through this geological war zone is the Karakoram Highway, a thin ribbon of asphalt carved into the very spine of the mountains. Climbing to an elevation of over 15,000 feet, it is frequently cited as the highest paved international road on the planet. The landscape is one of brutal beauty, dominated by jagged peaks and 1,000-foot drops. Building here required more than just heavy machinery. It required a staggering human cost. An engineering legend says that for every mile of this road completed, at least one worker lost their life to the unforgiving terrain. Landslides, extreme altitude sickness, and sudden rockfalls were daily threats during the 20 years of grueling construction. Roughly 1,000 workers perished in the effort to link Pakistan and China through the clouds. It traces the path of the ancient Silk Road, but instead of wooden carts, it now carries heavy logistics through a landscape that looks like the very edge of the world. A monumental guardian stands over the Grand Mosque in Mecca, a skyscraper that redefines the scale of religious architecture. The central spire of the Abraj al-Bayt complex reaches nearly 2,000 feet into the sky, but the most striking feature is the four-faced clock near the summit. These are the largest clock faces ever constructed, with each one spanning over 140 feet across. To put that in perspective, the surface area of these dials is dozens of times larger than the face of Big Ben in London. By night, millions of LED lights illuminate the tower, making the time readable from a distance of over 12 miles. The structure was built to accommodate the massive influx of pilgrims, featuring high-end hotels and prayer halls that can hold thousands of people. It serves as a beacon of light and faith, broadcasting the call to prayer across the holy city while functioning as a master timepiece for the Islamic world. Deep beneath the snow-capped peaks of the Swiss Alps, a quiet revolution in transport is happening in total darkness. The Gotthard Base Tunnel is the longest and deepest railway tunnel on the planet, plunging nearly 8,000 feet below the solid rock of the mountains. At this depth, the weight of the Earth creates temperatures that can reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, requiring massive ventilation systems just to keep the equipment running. Two giant boring machines, each longer than 4 football fields, ground through 30 million tons of rock over the course of 17 years. It provides a flat, high-speed route through a mountain range that has been a barrier to European trade for thousands of years. Three independent towers rise from the reclaimed soil of Singapore, supporting a structure that looks like a high-altitude ship docked across their summits. This is the Sky Park, a 3-acre tropical oasis perched nearly 700 feet above the city streets. The engineering challenge of connecting 3 separate skyscrapers is immense, as each tower settles and sways differently in the wind. To solve this, the Sky Park was built in segments with specialized expansion joints that allow the platform to flex and move without snapping the structural connections. The centerpiece is a 490-foot infinity pool, an engineered illusion managed by a massive filtration system hidden beneath the deck. Anchored by 1,500 deep-seated piles, this project turned a patch of coastal mud into a global landmark of structural ambition. Beneath the shifting dunes of the Sahara lies a network of concrete arteries that were once whispered to be the eighth wonder of the world. This is the Great Man-Made River, a politically charged megaproject designed to pump water from ancient fossilized aquifers deep below the desert floor. These underground reservoirs were filled during the last ice age, thousands of years before the first civilizations appeared. To reach them, engineers laid over 2,000 miles of massive concrete pipes, each 13 feet in diameter, across some of the most inhospitable terrain on Earth. The scale is monumental, providing over 6 million cubic meters of fresh water every day to coastal cities that would otherwise be consumed by the sand. Unlike a natural river, this one is entirely invisible from the surface, a silent pressurized lifeline flowing beneath the heat. The network uses enough stone and sand to build a structure larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza multiple times over. It remains a controversial feat of survival, using a finite prehistoric resource to turn the scorched desert green. Emerging from this fog are 7 slender piers, supporting a roadway that appears to be floating in mid-air. This is the Millau Viaduct, a structure that redefined the limits of bridge aesthetics and height. At its tallest point, the mast rises 1,125 feet above the ground, surpassing the height of the Eiffel Tower. The design is a triumph of lightness over mass. Rather than a heavy, brutalist slab of concrete, the bridge is a delicate cable-stayed system that curves gently across the horizon to prevent a feeling of vertigo for drivers. The steel roadway was actually constructed on land and then slid into place across the piers using high-powered hydraulic jacks, a process that required millimetric precision over a drop of nearly 900 feet. It turned a notorious traffic bottleneck into a cinematic journey, where the act of crossing a river becomes a glide through the upper atmosphere. Rising above the tropical jungles is a mountain retreat that appears as an island in the sky. Banner Hill sits at an elevation of more than 1,400 meters, where temperatures drop 10 degrees Celsius from the lowlands. The primary artery of this complex is a cable car system that once held world records for both its non-stop length and its vertical rise. Passengers are lifted from the humid forest floor through layers of thick clouds, emerging onto a summit dominated by a surreal, European-inspired stone village. The architecture is a deliberate echo of French colonial history, with Gothic spires and cobblestone streets that frequently vanish into the mountain mist. At the center of this high-altitude landscape is the Golden Bridge, where 2 colossal, weathered hands rise from the earth to support a shimmering thread of steel. The hands were designed to look like ancient stone, yet they are modern sculptures of steel mesh and fiberglass, engineered to withstand the intense humidity and mountain winds. It is a project that reshapes human perception, turning a once impenetrable mountain peak into a cinematic bridge between the earth and the heavens. Panama, in the dense jungles of the Isthmus, a century-old shortcut, has been completely re-engineered for a new era of global trade. The Panama Canal expansion added a third lane of massive locks, allowing ships nearly 3 times the size of the original limit to pass between the Atlantic and Pacific. New rolling gates, some weighing over 4,000 tons, slide silently across the chambers to hold back millions of gallons of water. Unlike the original mitre gates, these are easily accessible for maintenance, sliding into recesses in the lock walls. To conserve water in a region where rainfall is becoming unpredictable, engineers built giant water-saving basins next to each lock, recycling 60% of the water used for every transit. A jagged glass spire now dominates the skyline of Kuala Lumpur, rising over 2,200 feet as the second tallest building on Earth. Merdeka 118 takes its name and its silhouette from a defining moment in Malaysian history. The faceted crystalline design is inspired by the raised hand of the nation's first leader during the Declaration of Independence in 1957. The building's exterior is composed of thousands of triangular glass panels that reflect the shifting tropical light, making the tower appear to change texture as clouds pass over. Inside, the core is a masterpiece of high-strength concrete, designed to resist the intense wind pressures and seismic activity of the Malay Peninsula. This is the Orasan Crossing, a 5-mile bridge that transitions into a 2.5-mile tunnel through a man-made island called Pibahome. The decision to drag a highway beneath the seabed was not a choice of aesthetics, but a necessity of survival for the nearby Copenhagen airport. Engineers could not build the bridge masts high enough to clear the masts of international shipping without creating a lethal obstacle for the aircraft landing on the adjacent runways. To bridge the two nations, they had to create an artificial landmass from dredged seabed material, serving as the anchor point where the bridge dives into the earth. The tunnel consists of 20 massive concrete segments, each weighing 55,000 tons, lowered with millimetric precision into a trench on the ocean floor. It is a structure that lives in two worlds, enduring the crushing pressure of the Baltic Sea while supporting a high-speed railway and a four-lane motorway simultaneously. Driving through the Sichuan Mountains often feels more like a flight than a commute. The Yangtze Expressway is a 240-kilometer labyrinth of concrete spirals and soaring viaducts that locals call the ladder to heaven. Its most surreal feature is the double spiral tunnel, where the road loops 360 degrees inside a mountain to gain elevation without an impossible incline. The piers supporting the roadway reach heights of nearly 600 feet, looking like thin, grey needles piercing through a dense canopy of cloud and evergreen forest. The golden sands of the Dubai desert appear to have been replaced by a shimmering, silver sea that never waves. This is a massive installation of millions of heliostat mirrors, all synchronized to track the sun and reflect its fury toward a single central tower. Rather than just using traditional solar panels, this facility employs concentrated solar power, where the reflected light creates temperatures high enough to melt salt. This molten salt stores the heat, allowing the park to generate clean electricity long after the sun has set below the dunes. It is a silent, geometric farm, harvesting the most abundant resource in the Middle East, turning the scorched earth into a silent engine for a post-oil future. The laws of physics state that a floating object displaces its own weight in water, and in the heart of Scotland, this principle is used to defy gravity. The Falkirk Wheel is a rotating boat lift that connects two canals separated by a vertical drop of nearly 80 feet. It consists of two giant, sickle-shaped arms that hold water-filled tanks or caissons at each end. Because the weight is always perfectly balanced, regardless of whether a boat is inside the tank or not, the entire 1,000-ton structure requires very little force to rotate. It is estimated that turning the wheel and lifting a vessel takes roughly the same amount of energy as boiling 8 household kettles. One World Trade Center rises to a symbolic height of exactly 1,776 feet, a direct nod to the year of American independence. The architecture undergoes a geometric transformation as it climbs, shifting from a square base into 8 soaring isosceles triangles that form a perfect octagon at its center. safety was the primary engineering mandate, resulting in a massive reinforced concrete core that is arguably the strongest ever built for a commercial skyscraper. The glass facade is composed of over 12,000 individual panels, designed to reflect the surrounding sky while withstanding the intense wind pressures that buffet the island. Underneath the shimmering exterior lies a dense forest of blast-resistant steel, a structural fortress hidden within a pillar of light. The spire at the summit acts as a broadcasting antenna for the entire region, anchored into a base that sits atop a complex subterranean network of transit hubs and historical foundations. On a remote stretch of the Texas coast, a silver sentinel rises from the salt marshes of the Gulf. This is Starbase, the birthplace of Starship, a vehicle that dwarfs every rocket in human history. Standing nearly 400 feet tall, its hull is crafted from shimmering stainless steel, engineered to endure the searing heat of atmospheric re-entry. At the base, 33 Raptor engines generate 17 million pounds of thrust, more than double the power of the moon-bound Saturn V. The true breakthrough, however, is the launch tower, a massive structure equipped with steel arms designed to catch the returning booster out of mid-air. This rapid reusability turns the once impossible dream of interplanetary travel into a routine logistics operation. It serves as a shipyard for the cosmos, where the mud of the Gulf meets the frontier of colonization, turning a desolate beach into the most important construction site in the solar system. "55 kilometers of steel and concrete now slice through the waters of the Pearl River Delta, linking three of Asia's most powerful economic hubs. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge is a sprawling maritime complex that combines elevated viaducts, 4 artificial islands, and a 4-mile undersea tunnel. The region is a corridor for super typhoons, and the water is a corrosive salt bath that can eat through standard reinforcement in years. To ensure a lifespan of over a century, the bridge was built using 400,000 tons of specialized steel, enough to construct 60 Eiffel Towers. It dives into an undersea tunnel buried 40 meters beneath the seabed, a move designed to keep the primary shipping lanes open for the world's largest container vessels. The tunnel segments, weighing 80,000 tons each, were sunk with millimetric precision to keep shipping lanes open. Surrounding the entrances are artificial islands armored with 60,000 concrete blocks designed to break the energy of super typhoon storm surges. On the coast of Florida sits a structure so vast it generates its own weather. The vehicle assembly building was designed to house the giants of the Apollo era, featuring doors that take 45 minutes to fully open. With a volume of nearly 130 million cubic feet, the interior is so enormous that humidity can collect at the ceiling, occasionally forming clouds and rain inside the terminal itself. It is a cavernous hall of industry, where high-capacity cranes move rocket stages with the precision of a watchmaker in a space where skyscrapers could easily be tucked away. The Akashi Strait is home to a bridge that proved its resilience before it was even finished. During construction, the Great Hanshin earthquake struck with a magnitude of 7.3, centered just miles from the site. While the towers were already standing, the violent shift in the seabed physically moved the foundations. When engineers returned to the site, they discovered that the towers had survived, but the distance between them had increased by nearly 1 full meter. The design had to be recalibrated mid-construction to account for this new tectonic reality. Today, it remains the world's longest suspension bridge span, a masterpiece of flexible engineering. The massive cables consist of over 300,000 kilometers of wire, enough to circle the globe 7 times. These steel threads flex and breathe under the pressure of typhoons and seismic tremors, allowing the structure to dance with the Earth's movements rather than breaking against them. Off the coast of Shanghai, a deep-water port operates in an eerie mechanical silence. Yangshan is the largest automated container terminal on the planet, a place where hundreds of robotic cranes and automated guided vehicles move millions of tons of cargo without a single human on the ground. These electric machines follow digital grids embedded in the asphalt, moving with a chilling precision that never sleeps. It is a vision of a post-human economy, where the scale of global trade is managed entirely by software and sensors. Crossing the Tagus estuary in Lisbon feels like navigating a road that has no end. The Vasco da Gama Bridge stretches for over 10 miles, its low profile hugging the waterline so closely that the asphalt appears to dissolve into the horizon. On misty mornings, the pylons vanish into the grey sky, leaving drivers suspended between the river and the open Atlantic. The structure was built to endure a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, a quiet, sprawling line of defense that prioritizes survival over spectacle. By late 2025, a new steel ribbon will claim the title of the highest bridge on the planet. The Huajiang Canyon Bridge hangs over a staggering drop of over 2,050 feet, cutting through the jagged karst mountains of Guizhou. At this altitude, the wind behaves like a physical weight, funneling through the gorge with enough force to halt traditional construction. Engineers must anchor the main suspension cables into vertical cliffs that are constantly shrouded in heavy fog. It is a frontier of structural nerves, where workers operate in a realm higher than most of the world's skyscrapers, suspended over a river that looks like a thin green thread from the roadway. Deep beneath the churning grey waters of the English Channel, two massive boring machines once clawed through the chalk marl from opposite sides of the sea. This was a subterranean race between the United Kingdom and France, a project that required guiding two machines toward each other through miles of solid rock. In 1990, after 3 years of drilling through total darkness, the two sides finally met. The deviation was a miracle of surveying. The two tunnels were misaligned by only a few centimeters. This 50-kilometer link remains one of the greatest mechanical handshakes in history. A pressurized corridor where high-speed trains race beneath the seabed, shielded by 3 separate tunnels and layers of reinforced concrete. On the border of Brazil and Paraguay sits a concrete behemoth that consumes the power of the Paraná River. While the dam stands over 640 feet tall, its true majesty is revealed when the spillways are opened. The flow of water is so immense that it equals 40 times the average volume of the nearby Iguazu Falls. This is a captive waterfall of human design, capable of generating enough electricity to power entire nations. The sheer weight of the structure and the vibration of its turbines create a constant, low-frequency hum that can be felt in the very bedrock of the South American forest. Rising from the sands of Blue Waters Island is a rotating structure that dwarfs every observation wheel ever built. Ain Dubai stands over 820 feet tall, a massive assembly of high-grade steel that pushes material science to its absolute limit. During construction, each of the individual spokes had to be lifted and positioned with the precision of a jeweler. These components were not light. Several of them weighed more than an Airbus A380. The central hub alone weighs the equivalent of 4 London buses. It is a slow-motion marvel of balance, designed to withstand the corrosive sea air and the shifting desert heat, while offering a vertical panorama of a city that refuses to stop growing. In the end, these monuments of concrete and steel are more than just sights to be admired. They are the physical evidence of what happens when the word impossible is erased from the human vocabulary. We have proven that we can redraw the very blueprints of our planet, and perhaps the worlds beyond it. What kind of future do you want to inhabit next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.